Dear students, this is Professor Venkatachalapathi, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. I would like to discuss about on definition and terminology in welding process. Let us see the name of the topic covered in this manufacturing process subject. Discussion on definition and terminology in welding. What are the basic technical definitions which is required a student can understand, and what are the topic learning outcome and course outcome in this topic concern for the manufacturing process. Let us see the topic learning outcome means the knowledge in thermal metallurgical aspects during welding for defect-free manufacturing components. This is very important. Whenever you wanted to manufacture, you should supposed to do defect-free manufacturing, and the main purpose and the course outcome of this subject, the manufacturing process subject, especially for mechanical engineers, we should categorize various defects and shortcomings during gas welding operation, such as TIG welding, MIG welding, spot welding, arc welding, any type of welding for real life applications. In general, the term welding starts during World War II itself, but as per the research, it is going on still. A lot of advanced welding process also is existing, like laser welding and beam welding, and some advanced gas welding techniques also has been introduced in industry. But in general, in a welding process, already I have explained in the previous sessions about all the unit metal casting and welding and metal forming process like extrusion, forging, and some 3D printing process, etc. But in this lecture, I would like to focus on definition and terminology of the welding, how it can be appear, and what is the importance of to know the definition terminology. Let us see what type of definitions or terminology is important in this welding process. Look at the first question. State the term weldability. What is meant by the term weldability? As per the Bloom's taxonomy or according to OBE, generally the people are asking define and write and like that. So as per the advanced OBE education, you should use some action verbs. State the term weldability. So how we can see practically in the three-dimensional figure, the weldability of metals, you can see how they can perform a skilled welder doing in a welding process. So it is the capacity of being welded into a separable joints having a specific properties, isn't it? So generally, whenever two components, either it is a similar or dissimilar metals, by adding filler or without adding filler, by application of pressure, without application of pressure, for a specific properties, you can call it as a good weldability in performing this welding process or fabrication process. And the second important thing is level the melting point in welding. So how do you level the melting point of welding? So when you wanted to perform a welding process, obviously you need some temperature. So this is why it is the temperature possessed by the metal to undergo weld to its metal state. How do you transform the weld to metal state? Okay, so that is what about the melting point. Either it is a ferrous metals or non-ferrous metal or ceramic metal. We should know where it can able to weld, where it can transform its the metal state, the temperature you can able to identify and determine. According to that, you can use any type of heating, either in electrical wiring, electrical or some other liquid or solid, any type of process to be used for to become a metal state. And coming to the another important, how do you describe the plastic welding? So in general, majority people are saying that why it is welding means it need not be a plastic like that. Yes or no? So whenever the state is very important, the piece of metal to be joined or heated to become a plastic state, because it is in a semi-liquid form. Whenever by applying the force, some external, and it going to join together. That is what about the plastic welding. Don't think that plastic welding means by making a joining of two plastic material. Only these are the metal pieces joined together, heated to a plastic state, semi-liquid state. Then you can force and apply it together to an external pressure. So that is called a plastic welding. And another interesting one, what is non-pressure welding process? What is one way non-pressure welding? In general, there are pressure welding process, fusion welding process. Non-pressure welding process comes under the fusion welding process. Technically, non-pressure welding is a fusion. If it is a pressure means apart from that, different from the fusion welding process. Okay. So here, what is non-pressure welding process? This means the material at the joint is heated to molten state to allow to solidify. This is what you can see for any fusion welding process. There will be workpiece and there will be some AC or DC power source to heat that conditions, and there will be a workpiece and electrode holder, and how the arc will be generated in that. Okay, and so that by solidification can be occur after performing the electrode with the workpiece with this spark has been introduced. So this is what we can able to explain, understand the terminology and definition of the welding process, so that the student able to understand clearly these type of technical definitions whenever it can present in the examination point of view, or if you wanted to design, there also it can be useful the terminology. Okay, now apart from that, let us see this some other important type of terminology while used in welding process. Let us see the discover the term cold welding. So here why I have added the term discover. So generally, what is the cold welding? Like that they may ask, describe the cold welding or define the cold welding. But here the term used like a OBE concept. Okay, Bloom's taxonomy form discovered the term cold welding. Generally, welding, everybody know that. The term cold welding, how do you discover? So, the joints are often without application of heat. Obviously, there is no heat in the welding, then it is called cold welding. Cold welding means you should apply the pressure. So because of the pressure only, the two metals can be joined together. That is why it is called the cold welding process. Okay. So that generally welding means always it can be heated the metal. The mindset should be like that. But here, cold welding, that's what you are going to discover exact term, the cold welding. So that you can able to explain clearly the term cold welding can be defined as it is the process of joining two similar or dissimilar metals without application of the heat. Only with the application of the pressure you can able to join together. So this is what a beautiful definition about the cold welding process. Next, another interesting one, state the term pressure regulator. So very interesting one. Pressure regulator means you can see a three-dimensional figure, especially in this type of regulator where you can use the gas welding process. In any gas welding process, there are three different type of flames are available: oxidizing flame, neutral flame, carburizing flame. So there is a usage of the gas in the two pipes. Oxyacetylene welding is also called the gas welding process, and oxyhydrogen welding is there. Oxyacetylene welding, different type of welding. There you can control by this pressure regulator. The pressure should be maintained uniform or excess or some shortage. So all this comes under the usage of the regulator, which regulate the pressure as per the requirement of our application. Yes or no? So that is why, how do you state the term pressure regulator means the term pressure regulator can be defined as it is a instrument which reduces the cylinder pressure to required working condition and steady flow. So that is very important. And another interesting one, what is meant by slag? Define the slag in a weld. Unwanted material in the molten weld pool is called slag. So any unwanted metal. So look at in the previous diagram here. This, while performing this unwanted material, is called the slag due to that electrode can be used. So it is the consumption of that electrode leads to a slag. Okay, so that elimination of the slag or unwanted material in the molten weld pool is called the slag, like that. And this cold welding already explained. The cold welding, you can see the how the principle involved in this cold welding process. There will be two metal pieces. This is metal piece 1, this is metal piece 2, and there is no heating at all. Just simply you can apply the pressure at the two supports. So whatever in the support you should able to clean properly. In the support end of the support you can able to clean, and you can able to apply the pressure in that interface joint, which is deformation. It is called either upset or resulting the flash butt joint. You can also call the flash butt joint. Here there is no heating can be done. Only the usage of the pressure, by application of the pressure at that support, we will also call it as cold welding process. Okay. So after applying this pressure, how they can perform this cold welding. So here some extra flash and come out of material can be eliminated and removed with help of this some other manufacturing process like grinding and some finishing operation process. Okay. So this is why how we can able to explain the terminology and definition in any welding point. Okay. Now look at another important definitions and terminology of the welding. Okay. So let us see the how do you define metal preparation? So define the term metal preparation. So whenever you enter to perform a welding, say either it is a arc welding process or gas welding process or any type of welding process, first and foremost important thing, metal to be prepared in a proper manner. Okay, so you take the two pieces, two work pieces, you can able to clean and you can file it properly and without any metal addiction in with it. So that is why the term metal preparation can be defined as it is the preparing the melt to join using external heat before the weld. So before welding you can apply some external heat. So need not be pressure, may be a little, but only the external heat is very important in order to fix up and melt the joining of the two metals. Okay. And another interesting one, you can see this. So let us see the metal preparation. How? So for example, this is a one piece, this is another piece, and either V joint or a U joint or J joint, any type of joint. Okay. First you can prepare the metal preparation as this slant. Okay, so first you can filing can be done appropriately to in order to fulfill. So like this position you can see this position V type. In this case and all you can fill it that filler material and filler rod can be used to fill this gap. Okay, so either it may be V shape or U shape or J butt shape, J butt shape or any rectangular shape in order to perform this metal preparation for the welding process. Okay, so now another interesting one is the flames, especially when you are talking about the neutralizing flame and carbonizing flame and oxidizing flame, means always you are supposed to remember that gas welding process, that gas also oxyacetylene gas welding, oxyacetylene gas welding. So what is the percentages of oxygen and what is the percentage of acetylene? So both will be, suppose both will be 1:1 means it is called neutralized flame. Neutralized flame. Suppose oxygen is extra. So 2:1. So 2:1 means oxygen is more than the acetylene. This is what oxidizing flame. Oxidizing flame. So suppose 1:3, acetylene is more concentrate automatically. This is a carburizing flame. Carburizing flame. So these are the some important terminology where you can able to perform the flames. So you can see in this diagram For example, the carburizing flame in the first and foremost thing. Excess of the carbon which lead to a carburizing flame. And if it is excess of oxygen, oxidizing flame. So if it is a less carbon is there, that you can see that how we can able to prepare the molten metal. And also here, the when you can say the neutral flame, it should be maintained uniform. How much amount of oxygen can be used, the same amount of acetylene only can be filled to each other, and in order to have some different colors, inner cone and outer cone, and how the arcs can be performed in a this welding process. So that is why these are the some important terminology and definition of a welding process in order to understand the concept and can able to apply in your any designing of a component or fabrication of the component. Okay, so this is what about the definition and terminology in welding process we have discussed. So next, look at what is the main terminology and definition in another welding process. Look at this. Describe what is meant by this leftward welding process and visualize the rightward welding process. Excuse me, here you can see that how you can visualize the rightward or backhand welding process. Okay, so you can see the rightward means the welding is carried out from left to right. Welding is carried out from left to right, you can call it as a rightward welding. So similarly, the when welding is carried out right to left, you can call it as a left. Right to left, you can call it as a leftward welding process. So this is what how we can able to visualize in a diagrammatic format. So if you practically if can explain anything also, sometimes it is a layman can have not able to understand the concept. That is why, so this visualization, the three-dimensional diagram will be there, how the welding can be done. This is a right hand in the sense welding is carried out from left to right, we will call it as a this right hand welding. And similarly, this leftward means welding is made working from right to left. This is right to left, we will call it as this leftward welding process. So this is also very interesting one, and whenever the application of some automobile parts and some sheets can able to perform this type of welding, and you should able to understand the clearly the terminology where you can able to use in this welding process to be understand clearly. Okay, so this is what about the how we can able to visualize and describe the leftward welding process and rightward welding product. In this two diagrams, you can able to understand clearly, even a layman also. Leftward means the welding start from right to left. That is called leftward. So rightward welding means it will start from left to right. Okay. So where the welding is carried out from left to right, we'll call the right welding process, where right to left we'll call it as the leftward welding, or we can also call the forehand welding process, backhand welding process. Okay, so forehand welding process, backhand welding process. Obviously here that torch angle should be approximately some 60 to 70 degrees. 60 to 70 degrees we can make an inclination. So suppose if we put vertical at 90 degrees, difficult to perform welding. So the metal coming from this welding torch and all, it cannot fell on that component. That is why it is sometimes it is a difficult drawback also. And similarly, the filler rod should be kept exactly 30 to 40 degrees at an inclination with the base. Okay, this is what about the difference between the leftward and rightward welding process. What about the submerged arc welding? The term submerged arc welding can be defined as it is an automatic process where the arc is formed between the end of the continuous depositing surface and a layer of the flex. This is a self-explanatory. In the submerged arc welding, what is the various solidified slag, molten slag, weld pool, and shielding atmosphere will kept clearly. So welding done under below that phase. Okay, so that weld metal. So obviously the submerged arc underwater application can be most widely used in the submerged arc welding process. This is what about interesting terminology and definitions in a welding process. You can able to understand clearly in any type of applications and usage of our industry. Now let us see the another interesting some of the terminology definition in a welding process. In general, how do you define the term welding? You can see in the right side reference as taken in the web resources how a welder can perform in the bridges and some of the large constructional areas and all. They can use some helmets and hand gloves and goggles, precautionary equipments, all the precautionary equipments. Then you can able to perform welding effectively. So in general, the term welding can be defined as it is the process of joining two similar metals or dissimilar metals by adding filler metal, without adding filler metal, by application of pressure and temperature, without application of pressure and temperature. This is the complete definition of the welding. Yes or no? So that is why here the term welding also can be defined. It is a fabrication or sculptural process that joins the material, usually metals or thermoplastic. That is what need not be completely metal, ferrous or non-ferrous, etc. Even plastic polymer materials also can perform welding process. But the principle should be same by causing of fusion which is distinct from lower temperature to the higher temperature, and lower temperature metals joining techniques such as brazing and soldering, and which do not weld the base metal. Okay, and this is what about how you can able to perform a welding in any type of applications where you can able to understand clearly the usage of an industry. And one interesting one, how do you recognize the term arc? It is more interesting one. While performing welding process, a welder can take all the precautionary steps like helmet, goggles, hand gloves, etc. When you touch the electrode into the workpiece, sudden spark has been introduced. That spark we can also call it as an arc. This is what a physical gap between the end of the electrode and the base of the metal. So how the spark can be introduced? It is the end of the electrode, it will touch and base of the metal, automatically some spark creation, spark will be generated. So this physical gap causes heat due to resistance of current flow and arc race. So this is what about the how do you recognize the term an arc. So in generally when you are speaking about any welding process, obviously it should have some AC or DC power source and this is called the workpiece and the electrode and electrode holder. This we can call it as the spark or arc. Arc can be initiated and the electrode touch the base metal. Some arc spark can be generated. I can compare this spark and the real three-dimensional figure from the web resources. This spark which lead to be whenever the heat can be generated and giving some solidification time, it will be fixed and joined and more strength can be also introduced in this one. This is what about whatever the topic, either it may be casting process or welding process or metal working such as cold working or hot working and rolling process or forging process and extrusion process. Only thing a student can able to identify some of the technical terminology and some of the basic definitions which are very very important to understand the concept and can able to express in any interviews or any industry and this technical terminology also required to find the solution in competitive examination like GATE, TOEFL, GATE and IAS examinations, where they can ask twisted problems or twisted bits may asked in the definition terminology in the welding process. Okay, based on that thing, if you understand clearly, no need to worry about anything about the definition and terminology. Yes or no? So this is what about the how we can able to project the either short answer questions or 2 mark question or even 1 mark questions in the competitive examination like GATE, IES and extra examinations. But only thing is a welder or a student or a teacher, first he or him should able to think, practice the how do you perform the welding. Then only, even if you study more number of textbooks also, suddenly if you are asked to do welding process, he may have fear. What happened that the arc may come to our eyes or arc may fell into our shirt, it may be spoiled like that. Your thinking should be there. So in such case, always you should able to list out the what are the drawbacks and what are the uses, where you can able to present these type of topics for the students purpose of you. And nowadays the students are worrying about the mechanical is it is a very complicated and difficult to get job like that, but not like that. So for any branch, there are five major branches. In that, three is the core branches like mechanical, civil, and electrical. So during in the after independence in 1947-50, in all the universities, especially SV University or even some IITs and the NITs also, there they know clearly how they can perform the process practically. So based on also they can able to identify and they can able to address the various important parameters. So this is what the recognize the term an atom we can also call the, this is called the physical gap between the end of the electrode, physical gap between the end of the electrode and the base metal. This physical gap causes heat due to resistance of current flow and arc rays. So that is why interesting one to say clearly, state the term welding process and recognize the term an arc. Okay, how do you recognize the term an arc? Like that, when you're performing welding, then only spark can be introduced. Without putting that electrode rod in that workpiece, it is never may happen. So that is why when you touch it, you can see in the gloves also some red color is moving properly and they can able to do in effective manner. So this is what about the some basic definition terminology in a welding process, where you need to understand, focus on this definition terminology. Already the last 2 units have completed the definition terminology. So still 3 more units are there. We'll discuss in the coming ensured classes for the giving the lecture for this manufacturing process. Okay. So thank you for this session given by Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, so that this may be useful for any type of students or any type of methods which is really required for the present generation, so that the industries may grow effectively. Okay. So thank you. In the next session, let us discuss some of the definition and terminology in metalworking process or mechanical working of metals. Okay. Good luck.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.